Hey guys, welcome to the Gods Unchained beta with the Professor. All right, today we are going to talk about the ranked weekend event, and we are going to talk about our first ever 25 wins out of 25 games, ultimate maximum prize. That's right. In this recent ranked weekend event, we had one player, ISBN, complete a perfect run of 25 wins out of 25 matches. So we're going to talk to ISBN today. All right, so in this first part of the interview, we're going to learn more about ISBN and also about his deck. All right, guys, I'm here today chatting with ISBN, the first player in Gods Unchained history to get a perfect ranked weekend. He went 25 and 25 just over this past weekend. So I'm lucky that he's joining me today for a quick conversation about him and his deck and his and how the weekend went. So we're going to ask him a couple questions and we'll see where it goes. First of all, welcome ISBN.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the interview.
Yeah,
The
no
first one
problem.
I'll do.
Yeah, I think I think the player base will be very interested to hear how your rank weekend went, and I think more importantly, they'll be interested to hear about your deck. A lot of people like to think that it's the deck, but I think, as we'll find out, it's also the player. But I think part of it is having, a deck that fits the player, but a top player like you giving an idea of what deck they use, I think it's going to help a lot of the people out there that's listening.
Sure. Yeah,
Uh,
my playstyle is definitely a bit slower than most of the other people out there right now. So
right.
I'll tell you what my game plan is for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. First off, ISBN, interesting game handle. Are you a book fan?
Yeah, it was most of my usernames were like just random things I see around and I have to type in the name. And for university, I had to order some books. And it
Okay.
was a four-letter name.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Works.
Yeah, no, it's really memorable and catchy. ISBN. I like it. I like it. All right, I'll start off with the first question. How long have you been playing Gods Unchained?
I joined at the end of October 2019, so during Genesis
Okay.
sale.
All right, during the Genesis sale.
Um, yeah.
And then prior to Gods Unchained, did you have any other card playing experience?
Well, I've played Magic for since childhood pretty much, but nothing like competitive for sure. Just like with schoolmates and like other kids around my age. For digital card games, I've played Magic Arena for a while and Hearthstone for like probably around 3 years, but nothing like on the competitive level. Like no tournaments,
Right. So you have a
nothing of
pretty
that
good
sort.
understanding on card games and card game mechanics from just playing around with them
Yeah.
when you were growing up. But like you said, like you played them, I would say fairly regularly, but not very competitive and intense.
Yeah, not competitive on like I didn't want to go pro or anything. Like
Right.
the main reason about me joining Gods Unchained during that time was that it's the first game where like the cards are your own, right? It's like it it's the not nostalgia of like old trading cards collecting games where you can collect and trade for real. Like you don't have the limitations of like, okay, you have Hearthstone cards, but well, can't trade them. I mean, you have them, but it's not a trading card game in my opinion. Just collecting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think for a lot of players, myself included, the draw was what distinguished this game from the other digital card games is the ownership factor, and I 100% agree with
Yeah,
you. Being able to recreate that feeling of, when we were younger and being able to buy a card, a physical card from the store, and then being able to trade it with your friends or sell it or buy cards from your friends or the store. I think that was definitely something that was lacking, and Gods Unchained, Gods Unchained definitely brings that.
for sure.
All right. Uh, okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about your perfect weekend, ISBN. So tell me about the 25 for 25. First of all, like, how do you feel right now? Do you still believe what you did? Do you feel good? Are you just like, okay, I'm focusing on next
What
week
does
now?
Oh, for next week, well, I have to wait if they're gonna drop the nerf hammer or not. Like
Oh,
there was a god power change announced like a couple weeks ago, and we still don't know when it's gonna hit. And that will change the magic decks for sure. Like you have to play differently with those powers.
right.
But for this week, And for the next, I don't think that they're gonna do too drastic of a change. I mean, the meta changes. If everyone's playing mage, then you will have decks that counter mage, and then magic win rate goes down. Because if you queue into like 3 or 4 decks that you're unfavorable against, then your good track record is gone. Like this weekend, if you want to be in the top 5, I don't think anyone below 23 wins is in the top 5 right now,
Oh yeah, it was
which is
very competitive.
insane. It's insane. So you gotta pick your matchups, see what people are queuing at the moment. Like there's some community website which is really good for tracking what's being played right now and who's queuing what.
Do you want to share that website?
Should be Geodex, right?
Okay, so
I'm
you
like,
just yeah, so you just go
yeah,
to the match results
geodex.com.
with the match
Yeah,
results
like
up.
normally on the meta page you can see the recent match results,
Right, right.
and I pretty much see, okay, if there's like a full page of Magics playing, I was like, okay, maybe don't queue Magic right now, because
Yeah,
Magic is one of the decks that doesn't do very good playing against another Magic deck, because both of the win conditions are the same. So it's the one who draws it first wins most of the time, and you don't want to have a 50-50 shot of winning.
right.
Not on weekend rank,
Yeah, that's
for
very
sure.
smart. So how do you feel about your accomplishment?
It was the first day was super thrill. Like I stopped playing for a long, long time, and now with Trial of the Gods like popping off pretty much and everyone joining back, I was like, here, play some weekend ranks. I think the first one I played after my like 1 year break was like 23 wins, but I didn't turn up in the ladder because my rank was like diamond, not mythic, and you get like
Oh,
kind of
oh, you got
kicked
deranked.
out of the ladder if you're not a. Yeah, because I didn't play like for a long time. I wasn't mythic for the Friday start,
Okay.
so it's like I missed it. It was a mistake by myself because I didn't queue up like a
Yeah.
couple games before it started, but it
Well,
it showed that my deck was still viable because the deck is the same I've played pretty much since a year ago.
yeah,
Did not change a
interesting.
single card.
Yeah. So,
I added I did a few tweaks because the only try cards I think I'm running is the War Maiden, or what's it called? I think it's the War Maiden, right?
trial card. Let's
God, let me
see.
check. It's the X Woman, Vanguard X Woman
Oh,
is the only.
that
Oh
one's a
no,
wel.
that's a core card.
Yeah,
Never
that one's
mind.
actually a welcome
I
set
don't
card.
think I am trying. Yeah, I'm not running any trial cards. Never mind. Yeah, so that's a core card.
Yeah, I'm
But
doing a
that
quick
card
look.
is really good. So there shouldn't be any. Because I played the deck from the get go. I didn't buy any of the trial cards. I
Okay.
didn't buy any packs yet.
So the only recent change that you did from your 1 year break was adding Vanguard Axwoman, basically.
Yeah, adding the
Nice.
Vanguard is the only change I've done.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is a little change. I mean, the meta changed drastically. We had so many god power changes and whatever, but it still worked. I played 15 games pretty much in the first couple hours of weekend launch. Was super thrilled and didn't even realize I won all of them. Like I played a couple games before and I just kept on queuing. And then when I took a break, my friends were saying, "Dude, you're 16-0. What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wait, what? Wait, what?" And then I had to like take a break, like look what the other people are doing. Because if you're 16-0, you have a chance to go flawless, right?
Right.
And nobody has done it before. So I took my sweetest time looking what people are playing right now, if they're gonna queue something unfavorable,
Yeah.
and it worked out. I played like a couple of days on Saturday and finished on Sunday.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think one of the um, key strategic pieces that people are missing is keeping a pulse on the meta, and it's always kind of like what you said. There's always little pockets of micro metas going on depending on the time and depending on which players jump on to play at that time. So I think you played it very smart there.
I mean, it helps that the player base in Mythic isn't like super enormous, right? There's not 1,000 competitive players right now that you have to keep an eye on.
Right.
But if you keep an eye on like on the top 20, like the most well-known players that you know, okay, that know how to play against your deck, because not everybody knows how to play against super late game Magic decks, because they are expensive. Not a lot of people have those decks, so
Yeah,
just
you're
gotta
right.
know how to use them.
Yeah, usually if you don't have that experience, one, if you don't have those cards, you're not playing that deck, so you're not getting that experience. And two, if you're playing against
Yeah,
it, you're focused more on your deck, and then all you see is, board clear after board clear and these big mana creatures, and you're just like, what is going on? And then you're like, okay, next game.
yeah. It's like I check a lot of decks. I check a lot of decks of. a lot of the top players, what they're playing, what they changed for the weekend. It just helps to know what the matters, what their win condition is. Because on
Yeah,
some decks you don't have to do anything. You just wait until you have your 7, 8, 9 mana, because their win condition's the same. They just wait.
yeah, yeah.
So
So,
don't overextend.
yeah, don't overextend. That's a good advice. So, real quick, you mentioned that you took a 1 year break and you returned with the Trial of the Gods. So, was the 1 year break just something personal, or you just felt like the game wasn't fun anymore? What was the reason for it?
Well, they took out all the game modes I really played. Like at the start, they had sealed draft and they had other game modes you can play besides ranked. And ranked gameplay back in the day was, for the top reward, you had to win 125 games,
Oh
right?
yeah,
It's, it was a grind. So after doing that for like 3 weeks, 3, 4, like doing that a couple times, you just don't want to play so much anymore.
yeah,
And
definitely
then
burnout.
the disconnect bugs, they took a while to like get better. I mean, even now people have problems with disconnecting and reconnecting, and back in the day it wasn't that much better, and that really hurts you if you, because I on one weekend I had 122 wins I think, and I didn't finish fast enough, and I was like 3 wins away, and I disconnected like a couple times at the end. I was like super pissed, so
Yeah, no, I could
I
hear
was
you.
like,
Like,
yeah, not playing that again. And then
yeah,
everyone was like, yeah, trials is good, trials, everyone's competitive, play it again, looked fun. I mean, it's the first time I played with sound on. I'm not sure when they added the sound, because at the start they didn't have like all the voice acting for the gods, and
okay.
the voice acting is super good. Like, I enjoy it. I
Oh,
play with sound now.
that's funny.
Like, I'm not
I'm actually the opposite. I started with sound on, and then
sure.
and I actually turned off the voice acting because I mean this is just me, but I got tilted one time by the magic. I might have been playing you,
Oh,
and then I had I had loaded my board, and the magic opponent played a board clear, and then he says, "Oh, what a waste of
yeah,
mana,"
they
and then I was just like, "Ah!"
yeah,
So yeah,
they do talk. Maybe I'll get bored of them, but I played with them like 2 days, and it's nice. They
yeah,
did good job. Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
game's improving fast
Yeah, no,
for
no, it's
sure.
good. So now that you've come back from your break and you're playing, what do you think? I mean, are you having a good time? Are you having fun? I mean, obviously a 25 out of 25 is amazing, but I mean, how do you feel overall about the game?
Well, with the new players joining in, I'm like inclined to even play outside of the weekend, because normally I was like a player that, okay, it's not weekend ranked. I mean, I did such a long break after they wiped all the core cards, so I don't really have a lot of the cards, so I don't need my flux to fuse them. So I'm like, do I really want to play the same deck over and over again? And then people get better, and you sometimes people snipe you, and you play against the same dude 3 times, you lose 3 times.
Right.
So normally I was only playing during weekend. Like weekend rank was the only incentive for me to play. And right now everyone's playing. Like player numbers during the week is insane. People test new decks for the upcoming weekend. They try stuff out.
Yeah, I
So I'm
agree.
definitely super positive. Like for the future, we with playing regularly for sure.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I totally agree. I think, we're in a good spot where the player base is starting to grow, and that just brings more fun, more competition, and definitely helps as the game grows. We will grow with it, and like you said, the potential for the game will be great.
Do you have access for the PTR on
I
Gods
do.
Unchained?
Yes, I do
You
actually.
do.
Yeah.
I did not join it, but I've seen some people that play the sealed game mode, which is like kind of draft, kind of arena style from other games,
Yes.
and that will be really popular in my opinion for like the new players, because you learn a lot more. Like learning in that game mode is a lot better than learning in competitive play right now. Because in competitive play, you play against min-max decks to the end, and your choices don't really matter too much. Like there's not too much you can do wrong or right most of the times. But on a draft where you have like not the optimal decks, and it's a lot more about the decision you make. Like, do you trade? Do you better your health total? Like the small decisions are a lot more valuable in a environment where the decks are lower quality.
Yeah, I totally
So
agree.
I really think the new game mode will be insanely popular. And also for free to play players, like You said you don't have any of the Genesis cards.
Yes.
The reward system, from what I've seen, I'm not sure if they change anything, is that as long as you win decently enough, like you go 6-3, 7-3, you gain pretty good rewards. Like you gain legendary cards, epic cards, you upgrade like a statue or something, a bow. They're
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I'm in the PTR and I've tried the sealed mode and there's a few people in there and yeah, you're 100% right. It's fun. It's something different. It evens the playing field where everyone that joins is using the same pool of cards. It's random, but it's the same set, so everyone has the same access. You can't, if you have a better collection, you can't throw that in there. And
Yeah.
like you said, the rewards are generous. You win, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's when it starts getting really lucrative, and then you start earning epics and legendaries, and like you said, the trinket as well. So I think it's great when it comes out. Just some recent news though. It's currently the PTR is going down for a little bit now. We provided probably almost a month of feedback to
No.
the devs on it, so they're gonna take that feedback and they're gonna do some changes on the PTR on the seal deck in the PTR. So it's actually going down for a little bit more improvements. But
But
it will
that's good to hear.
Yeah, but it will be
Good
out,
to
I
hear.
think. Definitely, I think the next thing coming out will be IMAX, and then the sealed will follow right after.
Yeah, it's. I mean, having another game up besides just rank, because not everyone wants to play rank. Like, not everyone wants to be like super competitive, right? They just want to
Yes.
have some fun playing out different cards. And I mean, the AI is okay, but come on, it's
Yeah.
not really a challenge in my opinion.
Yeah. No, the
It's more
AI.
about getting to know the mechanics, right?
Yes. Yeah, the AI is not even. I wouldn't even
Like,
call it practice.
I mean, they're programmed to use all their mana as if, like, even if they have only one creature on their board and they have all spells in them, they just use it on their own creature. They
Yeah.
just kill their own creature.
Yeah, I've seen that
So
definitely, and
it's,
I'm like, what is going on here? I'm not learning. Is that how I'm supposed to play? Kill my own creature?
yeah.
All
No,
right.
but yeah, improved for sure. Improvements in the future, improvements now.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
super stoked about the game for sure.
I agree. So just real quick, back to your run. So when did you start feeling the pressure? You said at 16 and 16, you weren't really aware, and then you started kind of looking at
No,
the.
after yeah, 16-0, like after the first day, I took a break for like probably 12, 15, 18 hours. I went to bed pretty much that night. I was like, okay, next day, and then I was too scared to queue. I was like, I don't want to queue against people playing right now. I'll just wait until they finish. And then I sat for 16 a bit. I played like 3, 4 games, and I was at 20. And then people finished above me. And like, okay, I have to play now, right? Because I mean, I have 20 wins. The others have like 22, so you have to play. But yeah, I mean, you gotta finish it someday.
Yeah,
Either you go, either you win or you lose.
right. Yeah, I was tracking your progress as well, and I saw you at 22, at 25 for a while, and I was like, oh, is he gonna? Oh, sorry, I saw you at 22 and 22, and I was like, wow, he needs to get those 3 games in.
Yeah, it's like it's stressful for sure because you have the pressure on you, like for sure. Like the last few games were, I mean, I was happy that the matchups were good because if I played against Light like the last 3 times, I was probably would have lost a couple. But yeah, good matchups.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, it's always definitely skill, but also at the same time, there's the skill with the deck and the player. There's the strategy, which you said earlier, sort of picking your spots, knowing the right time, but also there's definitely an element of luck as well. And I think,
Yeah,
it was your weekend and you took advantage of all three. So congratulations.
for sure. Thank you, thank you. I mean,
All
this
right.
weekend there's so many players with 23. Like, could
Yeah.
have been everyone's run, right? Just 1 or 2 more games.
Yeah, it was definitely a very competitive weekend. I mean, I think it was because, it was double prizes. Everyone put on their best game faces and did their best this weekend.
And not to only talk positive about the game, some of the 23 players did have a disconnect or two,
Oh
so
yeah. No,
kind of sad to hear about it. But I dodged the disconnects this time.
yeah, you got
So
lucky.
this
I personally can say I got disconnected as well. The game started, I picked my god power, and then next thing you know,
oh,
it
you
just said defeat.
got the instant loss. Yeah, I heard about that one as well.
Yeah, that
I
was
dodged those.
yeah, you definitely, like I said, an element of luck for people to succeed, and you had that, so that was good. So let's jump into your deck. Let's talk about your deck here. I pulled up your deck list from GU Decks.
Yeah,
We have
it's
your Ramp Magic deck here. Um, so I guess first thing is to get it. to get out in the open. You answered this on a message, with me and Muse here, fake Muse, because people had said, "Why one tracking bolt? Is that the meta?" And so you just want to clear that up real
Yeah.
quick.
Okay. So because they wiped the core cards sometime after the release, right? I'm not sure when they exactly wiped the core cards because all the beta progress was wiped, and I wasn't too incentivized to just grind all your cards back. And I played a bunch and had a working Magic deck. I was like, okay, good enough, right? Don't have to grind too much. Just play weekend ranked and you're fine. And yeah, Tracking Bolt, Ratifier, some of the cards that most of the Magic decks play two times or maybe one time for sure. But I didn't have a second copy until yesterday. I picked up the second copy. Don't have a copy of Ratify yet.
Okay,
Um, which isn't in too much in the meta right now, because
right.
most of the threats you use it against have ward. But yeah, it's I
Okay.
don't like from that perspective, Tracking Bolt is essential. You should always have two of them in your deck. It's such a strong card.
All right. So I
Don't,
guess,
don't like,
yeah. So before we talk about your deck, so it sounds like your deck is basically you use what you had as well, and then it's far from optimized from your point of view.
yeah, like from the optimization point of view, there's some cards that are probably questionable, like Clone, for example, like Tiet and Magic Unburdened. Like those, some of the late game cards and some of the early game cards aren't too popular right now, or
Right.
not, like at least not popular in the archetype I'm playing. But I mean, I played what worked, but also I didn't change it for weeks, right? I could have changed a couple cards. I could have went like less RAM, more RAM, because there's more RAM cards in Magic, right? There's
Right.
cards that give you protected and more mana. But I decided not to. Like the most recent change I did was adding the Rune Moth when they did the balance patch towards it. Most of the Magic decks, I think, added it to its deck. It's pretty good because you get a 0 mana spell. And later, when I talk about like the win conditions, it's one of the part of the win condition to
Oh,
OTK
okay.
most of the games.
Yeah. So let's that's a good segue. So let's give us your overall deck idea, your deck plan, and then your win conditions here.
Yeah, like the win condition depends on against what deck you're playing, right? Because against for like Zoo's type of decks or like Deception Rush or like Death, which just tries to burn you down as fast as possible, or like Face Mage, your win condition is to get to turn 9. Your win condition is to survive and clear the board. Because once they run out of steam, and most of the Rush decks do run out of steam, because drawing cards isn't too popular in Geo right now. Like not a lot of the decks are running draw cards. So once they run out of steam, they're pretty much done.
And so
So
how do
that's
you
the condition for against some decks.
so from
But
in that
the
matchup,
general, sure.
sorry, on that matchup against that matchup, are you just looking to get your early bolts early and then ramp at the same time, or what do you prioritize?
Yeah. Like normally I'd say against like the early game decks, which is Hidden Rest Deception, like Death, Do, and some variants of Lightning or Light. Against those, you want to have fast answers because once, like, if they're like going first or going second, which matters a lot as well. But you want to have fast answers against those decks because they don't have draw, so they want to get value out of the Sanctum. And if you have fast answers and they can't get those points, they fall behind really fast because your answers are efficient. The Vanguard X Woman is an efficient card. The Tracking Bolt, Star Shard Bolts, even the Time Bomb, or once you get to 6 mana, the Astric Implosion. Like those are efficient and fast cards. You play them and the threat gets removed. You don't
Right.
have to wait a turn. You don't have to hope that the other one does a bad trade. You just have fast removal, which is the only removal we run on Mage. There's nothing like no protected, not a lot of frontline which like have um yeah, not a lot of front lines. Like the only one we're running is Tiet and Pyramid Warden, but Pyramid Warden is it's a Genesis card, right? It's like it's a must have in pretty much all the control decks. It's too good to pass.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the top Genesis cards. I agree.
Too good to pass. It stalls so good. Yeah, but on the mulligan, I'd say you're looking for any card below 2 mana. Like I'd say roughly half my deck is probably below the 3 mana mark. So you just mulligan towards those for the early game. Either get ramp or removal, like those you want to see.
Right.
Those cards against the early games. Against the late game decks, for example, a late game deck which is being played right now, like Board Wipe Death or other Magic, your win conditions change a lot. Against Death, there's not a lot of threats they put out. There's not a lot of like immediate answers that you have to put out. So your goal is pretty much just ramp as fast as possible, and they help you as well because all the death ramp goes for both players. Like their draw most of the time works for both players. Their mana ramp works for both players, so they help you. And your win condition is one of the ones I mentioned earlier to get the Rune Moth out, which gives you a 0 mana rune, and finishing with a Avatar of Magic, which is pretty much a OTK, since every time you cast a spell, you get a 1-cost spell back, which does 5 damage to the face.
Right.
And it just chains to oblivion.
Yeah, especially at 9 mana starting with, and then you have your 0 cost rune card from the Rune Moth,
Yeah,
correct?
you get a 1 spell instantly back, but you have Frey in your deck, which we can talk about as well, because I'm using Clear Mind over Blast Wave in
Yes.
probably 90% of my games, because consistency is king, right? If you want to win 20 plus games, either you have to be super lucky or you have to be consistent in finding your missing pieces.
Right.
And having the ability to look at the next 2 cards you're drawing and potentially putting in on the bottom of your deck helps a lot with consistency. Like a lot. It's insanely powerful. You also get the benefit of getting protected on your god, which is probably the strongest ability you can have for nature matchups. Because they usually put one big threat on the board, and if you can pay 2 mana to look at your next 2 card and take 0 damage on the next turn, sure, sign me up. I'll do it every time.
Yeah, I
So
think that.
stalling that power is insane.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that Clear Mind. That's a good good pickup on your side there. I know you mentioned because I think Blast Wave is I think overwhelmingly popular for a lot of the player base, and you said you used Clear Mind 95% of the time. What are you using in the other 5% of the time, and which matchups?
Or not, maybe not 95, but against the only matchups that I think Blast Wave is mandatory is against Hidden Rust Deception. Because they have 2 or 3 cards which you have to deal with immediately. Like if they have one of the, I'm not sure what the cat is called.
Shadow of Lethanon.
Yeah, that card, if they have that on the board, shit goes down really fast. You lose in a couple turns. They buff it or not. Like, the same with Switch Duelists or with Jinx Blade. Like, there's so many cards in Deception. If you don't deal with them, they just win.
No, you're
So,
100% right on that. The Shadow of Lethanon.
so
If
Blast Wave is mandatory against those decks, for sure, 100%. And Blast Wave is getting nerfed, so not sure who's gonna keep check on those decks. We'll see.
yeah,
But yeah, you need to play again. That's probably what I changed against Light. I tried out Mage Bolt, which was the first time it was a mistake. I forgot to pick my power at Mage Bolt, and I was complaining in Discord already. Fuck, I picked the wrong power, right? Gonna get my streak killed.
yeah, but it worked
But
out.
it worked out real great. In that game it pretty much carried because it negates their god power of summoning a 2/2 Acolyte.
That's great. Yeah, so that
And
was a good
after that,
discovery.
I mean, some players say it's too slow, and maybe it is too slow. I played against all. I played against 5 light decks, and all 5 times I went first. And going
Okay.
first on light deck is pretty much it's a bump at least of 20-30% win rate. Like that deck feeds off favor on the Sanctum, and it feeds off trading the way you want to trade. And if you can't do that, then the deck is a lot weaker for sure.
Yeah, getting
But
the initiative is important.
Clear Mind, it helps against like I'm not sure why not too many people are playing with it. It's so much consistency. Some people are running the card that you draw a nether, and the only nether we're running is Demogorgon, which is a busted card in its own.
Right.
But having the ability to just not take damage and look at the next two cards makes the game a lot more. I wouldn't say it's single player because you always play just play your deck down, but it just gives you consistency, so you know what to expect. And there's a high level, like, not, I wouldn't say high level, but it's a strategy which I don't think a lot of people are doing right now because they're not playing the power. Is you can guarantee Avatar of Magic or some of your 9 drops being discounted by Frey. As long as once you see the card, you put it on the bottom of your deck, either with Clear Mind, your Shadow Scryer, or with the other 4C mechanics. And once they're at the bottom of your deck, you just count down how many cards are above it. And you keep on spamming 4C effects, so you put more and more cards on the bottom of your deck until you know, okay, Frey is gonna hit my Tiet, Frey's gonna hit the Echophon, Frey's gonna hit Avatar of Magic, guaranteed. And if you can have that kind of guarantee against like big control decks like Nature or Death, you win 90% of your matches just from playing smart and having your pretty broken combos guaranteed. Because you can Portal Wrangler and clone your discounted cards, and then you play 3 Echophons, like 3 Tiets, and not a lot of decks can deal with it.
Yeah,
One
that's
of the cards
everyone's
that can
nightmare.
deal with it, yeah, one of the cards that can deal with it is one of the cards which is kind of questionable as well, which is the Magic Unburdened. Not a lot of people know it. It is a spell, but the transform effect doesn't count as a spell.
Hmm.
So it goes through Ward, which means that no matter what creatures they have, everything will get transformed into a rat.
Wow.
And the probably the most popular win condition for like the majority of the people is Echophon, I'd say. That's like the late game win condition of a lot of decks. You just play an Echophon, hope it survives, you clear the board instantly, and it's a winning card, right? I'm
Right.
not sure. Do you have an Echophon?
I do, yes.
And you
It's
probably have it in most of your late game decks, right? That
Yeah, if
are
you're
not.
running, no, you're right. If you're running a late game deck, this is one of the best 9 drops. Even though there was a recent nerf where they took away Echofon's ward, it's still pretty
Yeah.
strong because it has that protective shield and it has the overkill, the twin strike, and the regen.
The overkill also helps in some matchups to kill the opponent if they're low on health total, because the overkill damage can hit the face.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
yeah, Magic Unburdened just cleans up that card. It helps against all of the like pesky ward cards. It
Mm,
helps against a lot, and the God Power is good. It helps you cycle. Yes, you lose the protected ability, but if you're at 8 mana, most of the times you don't need to protect anymore. So
right,
having the ability to draw a card and look at the next 2 cards you draw is insane for consistency and finishing your game plan, which is finding your cards, duplicating your cards, and dropping like multiple in one turn. Or if you want to play it slow against some of the death decks, just play one Echophon each turn,
yeah.
and most of the decks can't deal with it.
Oh yeah,
It's hard.
it's already hard to deal with
It's hard.
one. So if you got a couple more
Yeah.
waiting right after, that's yeah, yeah,
Like, but
GG.
besides like the Unburdened and the Clone, which is I'd say most of the deck is pretty normal. Like the core cards of ramping, like putting the ramp cards in your deck, and the removal is shared across the board, I'd say. Jason is added sometimes if you have it. It's an expensive card, but it gives you some win conditions for sure against some decks. The only thing which we experimented on was adding the Time Bomb. It helps a lot against nature matchups because they can't deal with protected very well. And going like 2 for 1 helps a lot stalling the early game.
Right.
But besides that, the deck is pretty much explained, I think.
Yeah.
Nothing too spectacular.
Well, one question I did have, you mentioned the ramp cards, and I think one of the things that surprised a lot of people was you have 3 9 drops with Tiet, Echophon, and Avatar of Magic, and then you have um, two 8 drops with the Magic Unburden and Fray. So, I mean, maybe the ramp gets you there quickly, and then you're able to, or maybe even the early removal is able to hold you till there. But this, I would say that this seems like a little bit top heavier than most Magic decks. Do you find that was that on purpose, and do you find that
It
as an
was on
issue or not an
purpose.
issue?
No, that's the game plan for me, because,
Okay.
like I said before, the Force effect with Clear Mind pretty much guarantees you to hit your fray on any 9-drop you want, pretty much. So
Okay.
my 9-drops aren't really used to play on turn 9, which is a long time. Usually my game plan is to stall out the game till like turn 6-ish, wipe the board with 1 or 2 removals, stall the game, like with Demogorgons, heal back to full, and once they have to play their fast removal to catch up again, you can play your fray and just pick whatever card you want. Because if you play 4C, like since turn 3 or 4, and you just squeeze it in every now and then, you cycle through 80%, 90% of your deck, and you know what cards are gonna come. You just have to
Okay.
keep track of what you put on the bottom, in what order.
And how
You
many?
have to keep track of some of your cards for sure, but having the possibility to always discount your 9 cards to a 2-mana card and clone it or Portal Wrangler it is insanely powerful. So even if I would change cards, I wouldn't change any of the 9-drops.
Okay.
Like, I maybe would change an Inferno, because I'm running one right now, and not a lot of people are running creatures with, like, multiple creatures with a health total above 5. So Astric does a lot already, so maybe Inferno is too slow. And I
Right.
would change that one for a second tracking bolt or for a second time bomb,
Okay.
but I wouldn't change any of the late game.
Okay. So that makes sense then. So it sounds like even though you have at first glance a lot of heavy mana top end cards, you're combining that with your god power to make sure that it doesn't become an issue.
Yes, because you don't want to draw them in turn 5 and being in your hand for like an additional 6 turns and do nothing, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
you just cycle them on the bottom of deck. You try to track either by writing it down or by, I'm not sure what else you can do. I just write it down.
Yeah. Or memorize. Yeah.
Um, I mean, memorizing can be stressful
Yeah.
because some games you gotta be stressed. But yeah, once you know when the cards are coming back up again, you can pray it for sure. And hey, even in some matchups, when you don't know what cards are coming and you're cycled already to like let's say half your deck and there's only like 10 cards left, Frey has a potential to draw 4 cards, since if you discard the first 2, you get the other 2.
Oh,
So you
right.
can cycle to 4 cards already with Frey, and with the Vengeful Sorceress, the Sears, you can cycle through 6 cards. You look at the first 3 and then you get another 3. So you can cycle pretty fast, and like once you hit like 14, 15 cards remaining. So even if it's not guaranteed and you're in a pinch, you can you can just play the Fray and have a 50, 55, 60% chance to just hit a 9-drop. Because I have 3 of them.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and
That's
that's pretty much game winning. Like dropping any of those cards for 2 mana is game winning. Like, hard to come back from that. Super hard.
yeah. Definitely. The 9 mana creatures are definitely impactful. So having them ready is hard for your opponent to have an answer for.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
So I guess last question on your deck is you mentioned the Rune Moth earlier about the zero cost magic runes part of your combo. So do you feel that this card is key for your deck, or is it something that you
it
can
is.
look to replace? It is. Okay.
No, I wouldn't replace it in any way, because against some matchups, playing it early against matchups that don't have a way to do 1 damage on a backline creature. For example, some of the nature decks don't have a good way to remove it. They have a random effect to remove it,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have a targeted way to remove it. So having that card out, generating 0-cost spells every turn, is game winning, I'd say. Against some matchups, you just get ahead too much, you buff your cards, you heal your cards. And having the option to have a card which sometimes breaks ward, which is nice, and the
For
late game
zero.
potential of
Yeah, for
yeah,
zero
and the
mana
late
too.
game potential of having a 0 mana spell, doesn't matter which one for Avatar of Magic, because you don't have too many spells in your deck, right? We have some 6 mana spells, we have Inferno, Asterisk, we have the ramp spells, which you pretty much want to play early, and the early game removals like Starbolt, Tracking Bolt, goes out early. So sometimes if you play Avatar of Magic and you don't have any spells, well, the card's pretty useless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 9/9, but and I had problems with that, so I put in the clone to have a card which I can play late in the game to have a spell. And now with the Rune Moth, you can keep your 0 mana rune and play it with Avatar of Magic. And if you discount it and your enemy's god is at 30 HP, you play 2 mana to play the card, and then you have up to 7 mana to use to track the the beam cards you get from Avatar of Magic. So even at 8 mana, if you drop it at 8 mana, the combo, you still have 30 damage you can do to the face.
Right, because you have
So even on
6.
turn 8, it's a one turn kill with
That's
the 0 mana spell, which you need to do that combo.
to start the combo, and then so you have your Avatar Magic boosting your face damage to 5. So you have
Yes.
basically 6 mana times 5 damage. So that's 30 points of damage in one turn.
So Rune Moth is pretty essential in the current iteration.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay. All right. So that concludes the first part of the interview. We learned a bit about ISBN and the deck that he uses. In part 2 of the interview, we're going to do a test match versus ISBN. We're going to hear his thought process on how he plays his deck and what he looks for on every turn and how he approaches the matchups.